The Punisher was supposed to have a different sequel, but it never saw the light of day. It would have been called The Punisher 2, The Resurrection of Frank Castle. Now, we can only imagine what the sequel could have been. Although the 2004 movie The Punisher didn't do great at the box office, it sold really well on DVD. This success got Lionsgate Entertainment excited about making a sequel. They had planned to bring back Jonathan Hensley as the director and Thomas Jane as the star. Unfortunately, even after 3 years of trying, they couldn't get a good script ready, even though they brought in a bunch of writers to work on it. It makes you wonder what that sequel might have been like if they had managed to get it all together. While a lot is unknown, we do know that the film would have seen Thomas Jane's return. Thomas Jane, known for his role as Frank Castle in the first The Punisher movie, was initially expected to play the character again. His portrayal of the Punisher was quite popular, and fans were excited to see him continue in the role, which was crucial for keeping the excitement around the series alive. In the story, everyone thinks Frank Castle is dead, but he's healing from his wounds in secret. However, plans changed, and Thomas Jane did not return. Why? He got tired of the producer's messy dealings. In June 2007, Lexi Alexander was brought on as the new director, and by July, Ray Stevenson was cast as the Punisher. The project was then transformed into Punisher: Warzone, a reboot rather than a sequel to the 2004 movie. This shift marked a new beginning for the Punisher story on the big screen. But things wouldn't have just been about the screen. There were things for behind the scenes too, and so we would have seen a new director. Walter Hill, a director known for action hits like 48 Hours and The Warriors, was set to direct the movie. With Hill in charge, the movie could have been a wild ride of intense storytelling and incredible action scenes, something very typical of the film he had directed. His talent for making thrilling scenes could have brought Frank Castle's story to life in an exciting and deep way. Hill is also a master at creating incredible action scenes, so the movie could have had epic shootouts and fistfights about more than just action. Each fight would tell a part of Frank's story, showing his inner conflicts and his mission to get justice for the wrongs in his world. Hill was also big on themes like revenge and trying to find redemption. These would be big parts of the movie, and Hill could have made these themes even darker and more thoughtful. Yeah, we didn't get what we'd have liked with the next movie, but if Walter Hill had directed The Punisher 2, it could have been a much more intense and gritty movie. It would feel like the comic books, but also have deep, meaningful moments. Imagine a scene where Frank stops after a big fight and thinks about everything he's been through. This could have been a really powerful moment in the movie, showing how well Hill mixes action with deep storytelling. Speaking about storytelling, there were also plans for a unique storyline with the revised script. Kurt Sutter and Michael Woods teamed up to write a new script for the movie, promising a deep dive into Frank Castle's troubled mind. They wanted to fix the issues people had with the first movie by focusing more on Frank's inner battles with trauma and grief and his long road toward finding redemption. Kurt Sutter is known for his skill in developing deep and complex characters, and he could have brought this talent to Frank Castle's character, showing us a Punisher who faces not just bad guys, but also his own personal struggles. This would make Frank more introspective, really exploring the conflicts within himself between his thirst for revenge and the good man he used to be. Now that takes insane storytelling skills. Michael Woods also could have added extra depth with political and legal twists that challenge Frank's way of doing things. This part of the script might have shown Frank fighting criminals and tackling the systems that keep them in power. With this new approach, the movie would have been more than just an action movie. It would have been a story that made you think about the impact of revenge and the chance for forgiveness. And we could have seen the story of Castle's past. The movie was set to explore the deep and complex past of its main character, Frank Castle. The movie planned to peel back the layers of his life, showing us his family life and the tragic events that transformed him into the Punisher. So, we could have seen flashbacks of Frank's past, his family, and his doubts, making his character more relatable and his quest for revenge more touching. The movie would have also explored his emotional and mental struggles after losing his family. scenes showing his battle with grief and his internal conflict over what's just and what's revenge were already in motion before it all crashed. But diving into Frank's backstory would have definitely enriched his interactions with friends and foes alike. Understanding his full story just changes how we see his relationships and shows how his past shapes his trust and decisions. If the movie had explored Frank Castle's backstory, The Punisher 2 could have been an emotionally powerful and psychologically rich film. It would blend intense action with a deep narrative, offering a full view of a man torn apart by tragedy. Imagine a scene where Frank, in a moment of quiet reflection, visits his family's graves, interspersed with flashbacks to happier times, a stark, poignant contrast to his current loneliness and anger. This approach would have heightened the drama and made the film incredibly moving and impactful. But the most exciting part would have been the story of two new villains. The movie was to pick up with everyone thinking Frank Castle was gone for good. But surprise, he's not dead. Instead, he's been quietly healing from his injuries, secretly gathering his strength. As he gets better, Frank becomes fixated on a new mission, to take down some new bad guys, especially one known as the Architect. The Architect isn't just any villain. He's a super smart and extremely dangerous guy who's been pulling the strings behind the scenes in the criminal world. It turns out he's the one behind the tragic events that destroyed Frank's life and led to the deaths of his family. Frank finds out about the Architect's role in his pain and decides it's time to start his fight against evil once more, focusing on making the Architect face justice for his actions. This twist in the story introduces this fresh enemy and brings a whole new level of excitement and challenge to Frank's life. The Architect isn't just a physical threat, he's a cunning strategist, which means Frank would have to fight smarter and harder than ever before. However, Frank's mission to take down the bad guys gets even more intense and personal. While he's out for revenge, Frank would find himself wrestling with his own sense of right and wrong. He starts to wonder about the impact of his relentless pursuit of vengeance. But just as you think you know what's next, the movie throws in a wild plot twist. It turns out that the Architect, the brainy villain causing all this chaos, is actually someone from Frank's past. This revelation would have made their showdown more than just a fight between hero and villain. But that's not all. There was also a plan to bring in another villain from the comic books, Jigsaw. Known for his love of puzzles and a really twisted sense of humor, Jigsaw was meant to be another bad guy in the movie. His cunning ways and bizarre antics would have added a whole new layer of difficulty for Frank. Imagine trying to outsmart someone who turns crime into a complex puzzle. This mix of personal connection with the Architect and the psychological games of Jigsaw would have made the movie a roller coaster of emotions and action. Frank would not only have to fight these villains, but also deal with the emotional turmoil and moral dilemmas that come with confronting figures from his past and a foe who's always 2 steps ahead. So, what made them cancel it? When plans for The Punisher 2 began, everyone expected a smooth ride. The original director, Jonathan Hensleigh, was set to return, and Thomas Jane was ready to put on Frank Castle's combat boots once more. However, trouble brewed quickly as script issues surfaced, leading to Hensleigh's departure from the project. This left Lionsgate in a bind, needing to find a new director to take over. As the search continued, several exciting possibilities popped up. One of the more intriguing options was Rob Zombie, known for his unique style of filmmaking. Having him direct The Punisher 2 would have definitely added a wild, distinctive flavor to the movie. But that was just one idea among many. The producers were juggling different script ideas and looking for the perfect fit for a director. Meanwhile, the folks at Marvel were thinking of going in a completely new direction and considered a director who hadn't tackled anything like The Punisher before. This uncertainty led to more complications, and when the film's direction seemed unclear, Thomas Jane decided it was time to step away from the role of Frank Castle. And that's how it all ended. Frank Castle has disappeared, but evil will always need to be punished. So, do you think this is the end of Frank Castle, or just the beginning of a new chapter? Let us know your thoughts in the comment sections below.